Hey guys, Jules here from Behind the Cork for another episode of What's in Your Glass Weekend Wine. This weekend we got a special offer for you guys. Gonna give you kind of a quiz here. What I have in front of me here: dried figs, dried raisins, dark chocolate, dark cherry, roasted almonds. The wine today we're going to talk about has these flavors in it: rich, bold, Northern Italy, from the Verona area, Valpolicella. Hopefully you guys can start to get a feel. Hopefully these connoisseurs out there will likely start to think or imagine what I'm going to talk about today. But today, to match these flavors, we're going to talk about Amarone. Got one right here from Zenato, one of my favorites. For those of you that don't know Amarone, it is basically the king, or in my personal opinion, the king of Italian wine. We're going to talk about reasons why, but the reasons why I brought these flavors out for you is because this wine is going to be heavily influenced or taste like dried figs, raisins, dark chocolate, roasted cherry, right? Dark cherry, roasted almonds. If you like this spread, you will love this wine. So let's get right into it. Amarone, again, like I said, Northern Italy. All you need to know is when you're looking for this wine, just say, hey, I'm looking for Amarone. The grape varieties, if you need to know, are Corvina, Corvinone, Molinara, Rondinella. So combination of the three of the four. I don't expect anybody to remember that. People rarely do. However, those are specific grapes that are used in this beautiful wine. The reason why I say it's a beautiful wine, because of how it's made, because of how it's produced, and because of the flavors that it gives you. Anybody that knows Amarone understands. I want to say anybody that's had Amarone will remember the night they had it. I can guarantee you that. So bold flavors in here. You're going to want to pair this with bold flavors. The easiest is ribeye steak or meat dish, stew, anything that is full body. This wine will go fantastic. If you're serving this just as a sipper with a charcuterie board, excellent choice, because like I said, your charcuterie board will likely have nuts and raisins and dried figs and roasted almonds and so on. This wine will match perfectly. For anybody that hasn't tried it, have some Amarone with a dried raisin and tell me what you think. Your taste buds will be blown away. The marriage here is incredible. So why is it so special? It's because of the process, right? So the other thing is that the wine is more expensive than some of the wines I've been talking about. This particular one from Zenato is just under $50 Canadian. You're likely going to find Amarones. I think the cheapest one I found was probably $35 Canadian. You're going to want to spend that money for an Amarone. It is I think the easiest word is a delicious wine. The flavors are just chewy and juicy, and it's just spectacular. Why is it so spectacular? So unlike traditional winemaking, the grape varieties are picked late in the season, September, October. They want to make sure that the grapes are fully concentrated with flavor and sugars. Then what happens in a typical winemaking process, those grapes are sent to press and fermented and so on. The process goes through the winemaking, barrel aging, and there's different types of winemaking processes that wineries will take. However, with Amarone, those grape clusters are put into beds of crates or placed on straw mats. They're left to dry for the winter. The periods will vary depending on the winery. However, they're left to shrivel in a controlled environment. And this is not the shrivel that you would typically have with grapes that are sitting in your kitchen counter that mold. That's a whole other wine process. But this is a controlled environment that has the grapes clusters shrivel and increase concentration of flavors and sugar. What happens then is they don't quite look like a raisin, because this is, I mean, if you try to squeeze a raisin, you're not going to get much juice out of there. However, the grapes are left to dry enough so that they have enough amount of I guess pressed juice that can come out of those grape clusters, and that is sent into the winemaking process. So you could imagine already starting with a extra flavorful grape cluster and then turning it into wine. You could understand why those fig and those raisins and those dark cherry flavors really come out in the wine. What that also does is, because of the higher sugar levels, you're going to get a more intense wine. This one in particular is 16.5%. The average wine, red wine, is around 13, 14, 15% on the more full body. This is a whopping 16, 16.5, depending on the winery. It's usually packs a punch. So you want to watch the glasses that you serve. However, I can guarantee you that once you open an Amarone, it will not last the whole night. It is, and you want to serve this, if you're serving a bunch of wines, this is going to be the last one. Don't start with the Amarone, because everything else will just taste flabby. I can guarantee you that. So hopefully you enjoy this. Again, this is a wine that, bold, full-bodied. It can be stored. It can be kept for long periods of time. It can be aged. If you have a wine fridge like I do back there, in controlled environment, the rule of thumb I want to say is 10 years if you have a controlled environment like a wine fridge. It doesn't have to be an expensive wine fridge. It can be a regular run-of-the-mill wine fridge, as long as your temperature and your humidity is controlled. Wines with tannin and a good acidity can age for that long. I say 10 years because through experience I found that in a home environment, 10 years is probably pushing it. And not all wine can be aged either. So table wine that is meant to be drunk quickly, can't age that long. Wines that have higher tannins and good acidity can really go the length. However, 5 years is a really good one. This is a 2015. It can likely go easily another 5 to 10 years. I don't think it's going to survive. I think it's gonna be drunk way before that. But if you really want to see some spectacular changes with how Amarone goes through over the years, then buy 2, keep 1 in the cellar for 10 years. But I mean, hopefully that gives everybody a good rule of thumb. One caution. I know people like to store wine in the kitchen in wine racks, and aesthetically it looks really beautiful. It is the worst place to keep wine. It is usually the most warmest area in your home. You're cooking. If you're like me, you're always cooking, and it's the hottest area. You're always gathering. I like to have gatherings, when we used to anyway, gatherings in the kitchen, always people around. The temperature of the room usually is much higher. Wine doesn't like heat. It oxidizes and it matures and it spoils much quicker when it's in a hotter environment. If you have wine that is sitting in your home, I want to say maximum 2 years. If it's away from the sunlight, if it's not in a warmer environment, if you don't have fluctuations between morning and night in that room that are extreme, the wine loves to sit in 12 degrees and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 70 degrees humidity, 12 degrees Celsius. The more it sways from that, the more warmer it is, the quicker it starts to age, the cooler it is. Some people like to put this in the cantina like we used to when I was growing up. The cold cantina, sometimes they're not insulated, will basically will bring the wine to a halt. It will not age and will basically leave it stagnant. So you really don't want to do that. And then it waits for the summer, and then the summer becomes really, really hot, and then it just speeds up the aging. You never want to have those kind of fluctuations either. So if you're going to keep it in your house, I want to say maximum 2 years, as long as it's not in a warm room. If you have a room upstairs or somewhere where it's slightly more cooler than any other room, I suggest that. But be aware if you have, and I know it looks really nice in your house and on a wine rack, be aware. You don't want to do 5 years. You don't want to do 10 years. Wine will spoil much quicker. So keep it under 2 years, I want to say. So hopefully you like this. Give it a try. Let me know. I mean, there's tons of different varieties of Amarone out there. The cheapest one I found is $35 Canadian, and it goes up from there. Spend the extra money. It'll totally be worth it. Save it for a nice occasion. This is what you're gonna expect from an Amarone. Those lovers out there know what I'm talking about. For those that haven't tried an Amarone, you need to go get one of these this weekend. I think there's, I can't recall the name, but there's one just under $40 Canadian that is just superb. Even the entry level Amarones are really, really great. If the budget doesn't allow for an Amarone, there is a version called Valpolicella Superiore or Valpolicella Ripasso Superiore. The Ripasso, make sure it says Ripasso or Valpolicella is the area. Ripasso is the technique used. Ripasso means what they end up doing is, unlike the Amarone where the grapes that are shriveled or semi-shriveled then produced wine, the Ripasso is wine or I guess pressed grapes that are run through the Amarone dried grape skins, I guess you can say. So what ends up happening is the process is not by using those grapes. The process is producing a wine that is put through and filtered through the grapes that are used for Amarone. So the Ripasso will have similar flavors here, not as refined, much better price point, and you'll still really, really enjoy if you like the dried figs and the raisins. So look for those two. I mean, if you want to splurge, put a Ripasso and an Amarone side by side. Go with the same producer if you can, and do a wine test and see what's the difference between one and the other. I always like to do kind of the differences and to get your taste buds going. So hopefully you like that. If you like this, share, comment. If you taste any others, please let me know what you found. Any questions you guys might have, what you're serving. I'll be more than glad to make any recommendations for you. So again, Jules here from Behind the Cork. Hope you guys enjoyed the weekend.